Hello and welcome to AIL TV, to the big interview series. Now, I am very privileged, and I'm really happy to have someone that I deeply respect, because this man has done a lot for the African community and for communities from different backgrounds. This man is a giant of academia. Let us, we as Africans, we need to start shouting from the rooftop. Now, I have met this gentleman a couple of years ago. He hired me to record some of his conferences, and that's where exactly I have learned a lot. From those conferences, I met so many people, intelligent people, and all this time, I have been asking myself, why don't we see the African intelligentsia? Why don't we see the African academicians? But they are there. And Mr. Allam, or Professor Allam Ahmed, he's actually managed to bring these people together. He's been in education for 20 years. Now, what we are going to talk about today here on AIL TV, or Africans in London TV, we are going to talk about discrimination. And this has come about because of events that has taken place recently. You have seen the death of George Floyd in America, which actually instigated big riots not riots, big demonstrations from all over the world. Now, Professor Allam is going to tell us what is his experience when it comes to discrimination, whether it's at work, education, sports, but we are going to be concentrating discrimination in education. So, Mr. Allam, please, would you kindly talk about what is your experience when it comes to discrimination in education, especially here in the UK?
Joseph, thank you very much. I am also very pleased to be with you on this interview. I know you for many years, and you are one of the few people I really admire, your dedication and resilience to try to get through all the obstacles, to try to bring Africans, or not just African, but all Black and ethnic minorities on board, to show them and feature them in your various TV programs. And I'm very grateful. I mean, over the last, I don't know for how long we know each other, for 7 or 8 years, for all your help. And you have tremendously supported the work we do. And I remember still the first time we met, I was speaking in a conference in central London, and you were recording it. That's the first time I met you. And it has been a pleasure. Now, what you have, as usual, you're always hitting the big topics, and what is going on now, really, not only in the UK, or I think in America, but across the whole world. Of course, people in Europe or in America or in Canada, they feel it and they see it much more than those maybe in Africa, or much more than those in the Middle East or Asian continent or subcontinent, because here, where you can see the real pain, not only me or all of us, the Black community, but I think even large population of the white population, they do also feel the seriousness of these things happening across the whole world. And I think I can see that in your introduction, you referred to the episodes of the very ugly episodes in the US. And I think if we take that with as an example to talk about education or higher education, I think because this issue of discrimination and racism can lead to the death of someone, and this someone is not just a number. As I always say, in all the last 3-4 weeks, we are not talking about numbers, we're talking about a family. This man is a family man. He's a father, he's a brother, he's an uncle, he's someone in the community. We relate to him. I have never met him, but I really pray for his soul. He will have rest in peace. I have never seen him, but I'm so much attached to him now. The whole world is attached to him. So it's not someone killed on the street by accident. That's number one. Number two, when you see the people who are supposed to save us or to protect us from any other things, are the one who are now being accused of doing these things, of killing us, is quite severe, it's painful. Particularly, you lose trust in the whole system. You lose confidence in the whole system. You no longer feel you are belonging to this particular environment. You feel this is the end of the road, unless you really get massive emotional, psychological support, and you can really get the people around you. And I think, and I have said this in the last 2 months, or particularly the last months, or all along, I have been saying this, you need to have the support of the white or non-black citizen of where you live, more importantly than your colleagues or your friends or your relatives from the black community, because that's where you see the solidarity, where you see and you get confident this is an isolated case. What we are looking for, all of us, black citizen of whatever nations we belong to, Great Britain or Canada or America or France or Germany, we want to feel our non-black family friends or relatives, they are supporting us. They are with us. This is a time we need them to show us love, to show us compassion. This is a time we want them to show us support. This is not the time we need to listen to our relatives black who are already grieved about this. So I think the issue is very important. I'm quite happy to share with you my experience. Just to be in the safe side, I think my experience really is with higher education more than the general education, because I have been in higher education since 1998. So in total, I have like 22 years of teaching in the United Kingdom higher education system. And I'm very happy to share with you as much as possible what is allowed or what is possible to share.
Okay. Very well. As you know, you are always articulated. You explain things properly, and this is what I see. You see, a person like me, a musician who came into this country without knowing the structure of how institutional racism is, because I hear people talk about institutional racism. Now, I am beginning to see how that came to be, because I have been asking for a long time. You see, you are a professor, you have taught in universities, top ones, and you have written books about so many subjects, whether it is technology, whether it is ecology, I'm sure, but you specialize mostly in technology transfer. Because when I read your video, I watch your video, you say your PhD is in technology transfer. My struggle is this. You are the only person of African origin that I have done work with, or I have sat down to have a conversation about progress. Now, if I ask this question, why don't we see professors in colleges? Why don't we see doctors at the highest level? Let me just give you an example before you answer. You know, I've been thinking this morning. With this COVID-19, there has been doctors coming to address the public about the disease and how you can stop it and how you can basically contain it. But the most interesting thing is that the scientists, they told us that the most people who are dying are from the BAME community, or BME. Yet, we could not see a black doctor to come and address this issue. Maybe that one could also be aligned with education. What do you think that is?
Joseph, I think the issues you are raising here are quite serious and they're quite important. And no wonder the Prime Minister himself, Boris Johnson, is struggling to cope with how to deal with them. So we have seen last I can't remember, last week or 10 days, when people have marched to the street about this Black Lives Matter, he jumped to establish or to announce a commission for discrimination or something, which many people criticized, including quite a prominent Black MB, David Lammy, about no substance, no clarity about what he wanted to do. He just wanted to be seen, because the issue you just asked or you just raised, Joseph, is quite important. And I think I really like the word you mentioned, and I'm really glad you have reminded me about this word, which I'm start to see it vanishing from my dictionary, which is progress. Because what you have just mentioned is about progress. We always claim to be a progressive nation. We always claim to be a Great Britain. I am a British. I'm very proud to be a British citizen. But that proudness of someone like me who is not born in the UK, you don't want it to be eroded. You want me to have a serious belonging to the country which I consider myself a nation, or this is my country. So the question you raise is really about identity, is really about progress, is really about us together, is really about us really leading the world. We always talk about the Great Britain leading. How can we lead outside? Why we cannot lead inside? We are not leading in our internal boundaries. Now, to pick some, I mean, you mentioned a couple of things, but to pick it quickly, yes, we have top experience people in NHS. I can name you 100, not just one, top of my head. Big names. When I say big names, they have done everything. All the Royal College's membership, fellowship, whatever they have done, all that. Royal College of Physicians, Royal College of Surgery, whatever it is, they have done it. They are, some of them, they even earned or obtained PhD in the subjects. So I'm aware of at least two from, say, our, just give you two examples, not the names, but from our Sudanese British community. I know two top consultants. They have worked very hard. They have done everything in their profession in terms of membership and fellowship. They both have PhD from Cambridge University, which is the top university in this country. If you compare them with any other black, other white in the same profession, you will really be shocked. You can't compare them. You can't. They're quite high academically, professionally. Imagine the professional and academic qualification, they are the highest, top. So someone in the medical field from black and ethnic minority, he already has a PhD from Cambridge University. He's been working in the medical field for many years. He or she obtained all the FRCS, whatever it is. But yet, you may not find that person as a professor, or you may not find that person as a senior surgeon or a senior academic within his field. You will not see that person on BBC when they wanted any interview from an A&E, accident and emergency, or a big hospital. We always see white consultants most of the time. Most of the time we see white consultants giving feedback or responding. Not because the BBC is racist or is not really keen on bringing black and ethnic minority on TV, but because the BBC cannot do anything, or all TV channels. You are taking this on your shoulders. And I really congratulate you, and I keep talking about you in big conferences across, even when I talk to a minister or I meet any policymaker, I give you as an example, someone who is doing great work should be done by people like BBC, ITV, and so on. I'm not saying they are not, they are doing, but if when they go to a hospital, say like UCL, or when they brought that TV from inside there and intensive care unit at UCL, they said this is, at UCL, it is one of the busiest accident and emergency unit in the country. So they went to the right place, which brought a very dramatic videos from inside the accident and emergency of UCL. But yet, all the people they have interviewed, I think all of them, they were white, not a single black one. Even cleaners, nurses, everyone there, the whole system, I think they were all white. That's not the failure of the BBC, but it's a failure of the institution If there were few senior consultant or head of department, they were black, we could have seen them. The same thing when it comes to academia. We don't see them on newspaper. We don't see them on government advisory boards. We don't see them on TV talking about issues. But what is shocking, Joseph, really shocking, and I can start to give you example, even when the issue in the country about international development, for example, even issue about, say, Africa, even issues about, say, Sudan, for example. I born in Sudan, for example. And if you look into what we all proud here as British or as a country, when I talk overseas, everywhere I've been, I say I'm not just proud to be British, but I'm proud to be in a country where you can find on the street people from all over the world, from Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. But when issues of great relevance to countries from, say, Sudan or Nigeria or Colombia, is still the expert they will bring to consult or to talk to is not a black, which is a shocking news. You can't tell me you can't find an expert on African affairs who is not originally from Africa. It's very difficult to convince me. I know many academics, all of them, they have all the qualifications, PhD and so on, but you wouldn't see them easily in the surface because other white are already senior enough to be broadcasted, to be featured everywhere. So that who is the loser here is not the black and ethnic minority, but the loser is the Great Britain, is the country. The loser is our image across the world. When people imagine in New Zealand, they listen to Allam talking about international development, which he knows in and out. It gives them a great, emphasis on how the United Kingdom is producing good academics, rather than you bring someone who has never been traveling to Africa, for example. I have seen this. I asked colleagues during my academic career, and I can give you one example. One day, I asked some of my colleagues, have you ever heard about the fairest city or town or a small place which has completely transformed into a carbon-free city, like Masdar in United Arab Emirates? And I was shocked. One of the professors told me, I have no idea, I've never heard about it. So the knowledge of many white colleagues about countries or the majority of the population who are from Africa or developing countries is very minimum. All they know about Africa, for example, many of the colleagues I met from white backgrounds, all they know about Africa is either is a place where you have troubles, is a place where you get malaria, you get HIV, and it's a place where you may go for holiday to see the safari like in Kenya or like in South Sudan. That's all what they know. But I have many times mentioned, and if I take this opportunity, Joseph, to mention it, they never realize or even appreciate there is science, there are scientists in Africa or in India, whatever it is, but I'm going to focus more of my example from Africa. In Sudan, for example, the leading research institute in the entire world, leading worldwide on something called mycetoma, which is a medical term for a fungus which likely to happen in developing countries like in Africa. The leading center in the entire world is based in Khartoum University, called Mycetoma Research Center. If you go to the World Health Organization, you will find on the website of the World Health Organization, the leading reference lab and research center in the entire world is in that place, in Khartoum in Sudan. Now, if that's enough to convince scientists across the world about the level and the quality of the researchers who are leading in Africa or those who are here in the UK, very difficult, Joseph, very difficult. I give you another example. I remember I was attending a conference in London about Africa. All African, they were there. And I remember a guy, he's was a PhD from a prestigious university here in the United Kingdom, from public health. And he said in the conference, in front of almost 300 people, he said the amount of money my university, he was referring to his university, is bent on marketing its public health program, being X, whatever that university name, and a UK leading center, blah, 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 is many, many times bigger than the amount of money his own university is spent on developing or finding a vaccine for a particular pandemic at that time. And yet, the people who were affected in Africa, in that particular country, because I have to be very careful here, Joseph, they know better than my colleague, he said, at that university. So what he's saying, those scientists from that particular country, he gave example in front of the public, they know how to combat that particular pandemic better than those who are here in the UK, but yet who are known to have developed the vaccine or have done that, they are the scientists in the UK. So it's a quite serious problem, because we are not there. Unless we reach a threshold where we can have senior professor everywhere, we can have senior consultant everywhere, we will never going to make it. We will never going to progress.
Okay, so look, you see, I could have actually let you speak, because I know you can speak for days. Since I have known you when you speak in your conferences and stuff. You see, I just want to ask one question. Do you think there is a solution? We as people, I like to call myself the people of African origin, because Mr. Allam, or Professor Allam, sorry, the mistake we have contributed to this confusion, we as people from the continent of Africa, including those who were born in America and the Caribbean, we have been given so many terms. When they get tired with one, they create another. We are called black. Yes, we say we are black. We are called a person of color. Yes, we say we are a person of color. Tomorrow they will call us one thing. Do you think that we as a people of African origin, could we work towards a solution? Because I think this is how I might be wrong. Because we have tested now a little bit of freedom. This one, I don't really have to flinch. Because the freedom that we have is also making us to relax. Because, you see, how racism and discrimination is that now moved to the background. Because no one is going to shout you on the street, call you names, and stuff like that. But when it comes to the work, to workplaces, to anything that you want to do, yes, there we actually are going to hit a ceiling. But we, as people from the African continent, with all this knowledge that we have, yes, what do you think that what solution that can we come up with? Because we can actually talk, but then we need also now to start talking about solutions. You have just mentioned the best research center in Sudan, you know? So we need actually to shout from the rooftop and say, well, look, here is Sudan here. You know, Sudan has done a whole lot of things, whether it is engineering, whether it is education. What do you think the solution would be?
Now, that's a very good question, and I really think this is a question we should all address as Black, because if we don't help ourselves, no one is going to help us. And I have seen this in the UK, just in higher education, 22 years. I don't think the government is helping us. This is what I learned. If my dad, who was a fan of British, when he said he was the first Sudanese in the job he was doing to be handed over the job from the British, so he had a belief it's an equal society, the progressive society, which I really, it's very hard, and I'm really crying, or I'm in tears to say that. It's not. It's so hard for me after 22 years. Now, those who are going to watch your interview in America, in Middle East, in Canada, in New Zealand, when they see me speaking in pain about this, because I really feel for all Black and ethnic minority academia in the United Kingdom. And I will restrict myself to the United Kingdom because that's where I spent my last 22 years of teaching. I can't really judge other countries. So, yes, what can we do? I think number one, which I keep calling for, is that we have to start from the top. And by the top, I mean from the Prime Minister. I really think we should hit hard on the policy and decision making. We should not accept, oh, yes, we are all together, or what's his name, the foreign secretary. I think we wasted time on whether our foreign secretary is going to knee down or not for the Black Africa, the Black Lives Matter. I don't care if he need or he didn't need, or we spent time on him. We're giving him publicity on Sky News, on BBC, asking him, and he's replying by, he said, I will only knee for the Queen or for my wife. That's waste of time for the Black people. If we really need, we should go to the Prime Minister, and we should go, like you asked me, with the solution we think as a Black academic, and the same with teacher, the same with doctors. So the Black and ethnic minority doctors should go to Downing Street saying to him, this is what we think you should do. We should go to him and say, this is what we think you should do. This is number one. How do we do that? We should really put pressure on all politicians. How do we do that? We should come together. All Black academia, we should come together in a big, we can go to Wembley. I don't know. I know we have the social distancing, but we should come together. We will say, okay, look, guys, all Black academia from Aberdeen, from Leicester University, from Sussex, from Brighton, from London, UCL, let's all come together, even virtually like this. And let's agree on one thing. We have to fight just to be treated the same like the white colleagues. And to do that, we need to put pressure on all our MPs. So I have my MP is where I live. We should write one letter, the same like what, if you just look at the scenario of what happened in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks, the government decided or was planning to stop the vouchers for kids who are poor as usual, during the holiday. Do you really expect the government to be reminded by a player who is, I don't know how old is Ashford, I think he may be 20 or something. So what he did, he wrote the letter, he sent it to every MB, and he used, even the Prime Minister said, he congratulated him for using his publicity and his fame to influence policymakers. We should do the same. We should bring the best names we have. Senior professors, senior academic, consultants, blah, blah, blah. There's so many of them at big universities. And we write a letter to every MB. So I write the same text to my MB. You write the same text, your MB in whatever it is in Manchester. Then they will get one letter saying to them, you have to do this, 1, 2, 3. Now, number two, we have to tell them why they are failing in addressing this issue. And I will give you just one example. The government, I think that was the Labour government, not the Conservative. I may be wrong, but I think it's the Labour. Equality and Human Rights Commission is an agent or an agency of the government to try to help eradicate this problem, not just for academia, but for everyone. But let me tell you my experience, Joseph, and you can test it yourself. And I can say this to the Prime Minister right now. He can make a false call pretending to be a Black academics at a particular university, asking the Equality and Human Rights Commission to help him or her. Number one, and I'm saying this to the Prime Minister, you will not get someone to answer your phone call. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, Prime Minister, make the phone call. You will not get anyone to answer you. You will call again and again. You leave messages to the Equality and Human Rights Commission, you will get no answer. Number three, after you insist of getting an answer, you will get someone either, I'm not talking about COVID-19, I'm talking about 20 years of experience with government agencies to help Black academia to get their equal right. So you will not get an answer.
Okay,
When
Professor Allam, I know your experience is so huge. You see, as you are talking, and these are the things again running into my head. You remember one time we were in Brighton. We had you were in your conferences. It's very, 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 very nice conference. I kept saying that there need to be a database of
Yes.
all the academia that you know, not only actually from the UK. Okay, as I know you said you're going to restrict yourself in the UK, but don't you think that it would be a good idea to have a database of academias now? Then you come together, in fact, send a letter to them first, and then you organize a conference. It could be virtual, as you have said, then discuss the strategy. Because right now, this is where now we need to start talking. We need to start now demanding. You see, the time for talking, I think, is over. We are demanding why our matters are not taken seriously. But also, I will also say another thing. We people in the media, we need to work together. Whether you are a blog writer, whether you are a person who is writing for the newspaper, we need to get collectively. Because now I think we have got enough resources to actually to advertise our own things. Okay, I've gone on a long time. Do you think a database is the first step to take?
Joseph, thank you very much. And I'm sorry I had taken long in the other question, but yes, 100%, you have just nailed it, Joseph. And that's what we are thinking seriously about doing. Although I didn't even discuss or mention this to you offline, but yes, Joseph, you have just said the exact right route we should take. Number one, we should collect data for every Black academic, man or woman in this country. And to do that, as you just have said it, technology will enable us. We are very smart. We have even some professor or academia who are expert on everything to do with data collection, data science, whatever it is. That's number one, Joseph. You are absolutely right. And then once we have the data, we can then easily communicate with them with a simple email or with a simple message. So that's the right route. I agree totally. That's the direction we are now heading, because my legacy, I would like in higher education to be helping every single academics to have a better future, to be proud when he go to a conference in America or in New Zealand or in Africa, he will say, I am Allam Ahmed, I am a professor or I'm an academic from the United Kingdom. So when he says that, he will feel very proud to label himself as an academic from the UK rather than to feel insulted and humiliated every day in his workplace. So you're right, Joseph. Even with virtually we can do it. And imagine, Joseph, if we can get one or two from every single university in the UK, so we're talking about maybe less than 1,000 people, okay? That in itself is enough to start this campaign, because then imagine in my university, two of us from Black and ethnic minority subscribe to this initiative, then we can circulate this to our university, and then we start to build up a Black academic movement, because this issue is very serious. If you allow me just 1 second. The problem is, this is the bad and the very ugly side of this. When we see police officers in America killing someone, people now argue it is because of his color. We are in the higher education. We are not just killing the Black academics because of their color by not promoting them, let them feel spend all their life very annoyed, frustrated, not progressing and so on. But we are actually killing the students in the classroom, because not only once, Joseph, many times in different universities, I can see that students are complaining about discrimination from the lecturer. Can you imagine a Black student in a classroom complaining to you about one of your colleagues who is white? And when you ask him, why do you see this is racism? He will say, I know, Allam, because of this and this. That's very serious. We don't like this to continue. We don't like our students not to get the education they deserve because of their color. And that's why it is important. We need to act as soon as possible, and we need to come together. It's a very simple movement we want to launch. It's a very simple gathering. All we are going to be putting together is asking all these people, black and ethnic minority, to put down what is the solution. We will say to them, very simple. Let's assume we need to have a 1 or 2 pages, one or two pages, how Prime Minister can implement 1, 2, 3, 4 to ensure that black and ethnic minority are given the opportunity really, not on papers. Universities now, if you go to them, they will say, no, we have regulation, but they do not follow their own regulation. Universities are very good in putting something down, but they don't do it. So that's, I think, what we should do.